Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Welcome to the All In Podcast. We are here with week 1 of LCS. It's done, and it was a pretty good time. Not gonna lie, it felt good to be back. Didn't realize how much I missed it. I feel this way, I think, beginning of every year when LCS starts. But, you know, different format, only 8 teams, and way faster games. Like no analyst desk in between. So it felt very quick, besides, of course, all the pauses, which were, I'm sure, just first week struggles. But yes, we're here with Kevin. I'm Mitchell. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Yeah, even though we have pauses, I think that compared to LEC last, like in all the previous splits, like we usually have less, which I think Mark Z even pointed out. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. We definitely have less pauses in LCS comparatively. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it was nice to only have 4 games. Like, yeah, there was like maybe one game a day where I was like, it's not the best game, but you get over it with it really quickly. So far, although it's not great for esports, it's good for my schedule to have less games.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's in a more condensed nature too, so you can kind of actually watch it all at once. Doesn't take up your whole day,
hmm
which is cool. Yeah, I have a feeling though when we stop having as many pauses, because I'm sure it's like an early season type of thing. Um, the games are going to feel really short. Like the weekends are going to feel even shorter than what they already feel, which is pretty short. So we'll see if people like that. If that stays good, a good thing. Um,
hmm
I always wonder if we could have done some like hybrid best of one, best of three, right? I think if you heard Mark Z on the dive, he was talking about how they didn't want to do a bunch of format changes all at the same time. Like they didn't want to do the live patch plus the lower game times and switch to best of three. So I'm hoping maybe we get some sort of consideration in the future. But what are your thoughts on just the format in general and everything, and how LCS has felt, and anything Mark Z, our commissioner, has talked about?
I liked how quick it felt in the sense of like it can be long, right? Worlds is really long sometimes. The days are, but it needs to feel impactful. So I think the quality of just like going game to game, not a lot in between was nice for me. It was a little weird because I actually do watch the analyst test, but I think it's an overall benefit. I will say I'm worried. I watch on YouTube. The viewership's like 22K on YouTube, and I'm assuming on Twitch it was probably 30, 40 max. So like, I think that even we're at the point where no matter what improvements you do, it feels like you've already lost a lot of the core audience, right? Like we went to weekends, which I liked, but the viewership did not come back. It actually is even worse than it was before.
Mm,
I don't know what the overall number is, but YouTube has never been as low as 20K for. So that's concerning, especially because we have
rip.
less games. Double's not playing anymore. There probably are more coast. There are not more, but they're still co-streaming. But it's like that's always been the case. So for the last couple splits, so uh, that's just really concerning for me.
Yeah, I think that's reason to be concerned. I'm sure Mark Z is just as concerned about that too. They'll have to do something different, think outside the box to get viewership back, because yeah, the last 2 years have not been kind. Like people actually just stopped watching for a while, and maybe they just don't know it's coming back, or they don't care enough because they've been gone for too long. It's a whole host of reasons people could have. So yeah, you have to shake something up. Have to do something. Have to make a splash to figure out to get people to want to come back, or get new people to come in. But yeah, I mean, I think for this first week though, it was pretty fun. We had a lot of guest casters, which was cool. We had Doublelift and Licorice and a couple other people go on the broadcast and like cast with some of the people, and it was just nice to see their faces. And it's also kind of funny to think like these guys are here because they couldn't get a team, right? So gotta get work where you can.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's nice to have them there, but they're not active teams, especially Licorice. Like, if we take what Double said at face value, and he's actually, done, then yeah, that's fine. But Licorice should have a team. It's so weird that he doesn't. After, I think it's just because of the timing that GGS disbanded slash got
Yep.
left, right?
Yep, definitely screwed them over, all their teams in a little bit. But they're out. They're just gone. So what can you do? Can't really go chase them down or anything. But yeah, let's talk about the actual games now, because there were 8 of them. Let's talk about let's just get the elephant out of the room. Cloud9 with JoJo. Was it as good as you thought it was going to be? Was it as beautiful as you imagined it? What are your thoughts on our number one seeming team?
Yeah, I think Cloud9 with JoJo is what we wanted, right? He looked supported. He looked like he didn't need to hyper carry, but he was still, clean. There didn't seem to be that big of a disconnect between him and Blabber, like we maybe feared. I mean, maybe they weren't challenged that hard. It's hard to say, but they were still against the number 2 power rank team, NRG, right? And it was pretty much
Hmm.
from beginning to end. There was some scuffles, but it was always looked like C9 was the better team. We had the same take last. I had the same take last year when FlyQuest went like 4-0 or something like that in the beginning, where I was like, anything less than a stomp is just like a disappointment, right? So it's a
Yeah.
little too early to say, but I think they're on the right trajectory. It's very hard for me to see what kind of team will beat them unless a more early game centric team just like stomps them.
Yep, that's true. And it's very early, and we're always here for the overreactions in the first week, right? But I mean, they're pretty good. I think it was more of the opponents didn't have much to offer sort of thing, where I couldn't really tell how good Cloud9 was because it felt like their bottom lane didn't really contribute much at all. It was just all jungle mid, right? Completely steamrolling. I felt like Fudge also didn't have to do very much. He just played Udyr, was a tank, and kind of just AFK farmed. So, yeah, other teams are gonna have to pick it up for us to really see. But yeah, JoJo and Blabber themselves look decent, look not bad. Another team that I think falls under that boat of we expected them to be good at least early on. It was FlyQuest.
Mhm.
FlyQuest went 2-0. They had a couple interesting picks, but were overall looked very coordinated and pretty aggressive. So, what are your thoughts on FlyQuest?
I thought that Inspired was decent. Like he looks like a top tier jungler still. Whipple looked like he was having a really good time. I mean, they were playing against relatively easy. So for FlyQuest being Immortals, like that's always you're gonna always look good against Immortals. But
Yep.
against Shopify Rebellion, while it was back and forth, I thought Whipple was so much better than Fake God in that game. Whipple was playing Udyr, Fake God was playing Aatrox, and
Yeah, Aatrox.
it was not close. The thing that stuck out to me besides inspiring Bwipo, who I did have high hopes for, was Jensen. I thought Jensen played 2 good games. He had a pretty bad split last year, like really bad in his final summer split. So it's good to see that he's still playing well. But again, they're against the 2-0-2 teams, so like they were
Yeah.
half of that 0-2, but it's hard, but as long as Whippo doesn't get stomped, it looks like this team has like the firepower. It needs to be middle, top of middle.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I think that at least for most of the regular season, they're going to be up there in the standings, and we'll just see where it develops towards the end of that. Um, yeah, I gotta say though, one of their wins against Shopify itself, I do think obviously, FlyQuest, a lot of their players were playing better. Insanity on the Zac was not it. That was rough to watch.
Uh,
But it did feel like, what are these comps that we're seeing are really crazy between just these two teams. Is FlyQuest has the like Exodia, Senna, Seraphine, Oriana comp, right? And then you have like two tanks, Udyr and Poppy. It just felt like one of those Exodia crazy comps. And then Shopify, I mean, Wild Turtle was getting pretty fed, and he was doing some good damage on the Lucian Nami, but just so unbelievably outcomped. Like, it did not feel like it was ever going to matter what happened in that game. Just mega Exodia. So, it's cool that FlyQuest, they have their 2 rookie bot laners, but they're playing the weird stuff already, right? So we're gonna hopefully get some variety from this FlyQuest org and team, because yeah, I don't think you would say that about last year's FlyQuest. They didn't really experiment and do the weird stuff, right? Put Prince on the most traditional best AD carry you can, right? But that's not what FlyQuest is about. They're willing to cook uh, with their unique roster. So um, that's FlyQuest. Anybody else you want to talk about? 100 Thieves, Team Liquid. That was a game that happened. Another one of those Exodia type games. It did feel like Team Liquid was just winning for the most part against 100 Thieves, right? What happened, do you think, there?
yeah, I there was that one fight around Dragon Pit, or Dragon River, which I thought was like not great, but I thought Liquid different from last year. I might be jinxing it. I think last year it was like was super strong early game, right? And then you felt like they just collapsed and they just didn't know how to play. I thought this game's they just didn't have the late game and they couldn't close out in time. Like when they got the Baron, they were making some good strides, but it did feel like 100 Thieves like got into it. I also think the Riven was a little disrupting. Like she was pretty much like 0-2, I think, early game, and Sniper on Riven was still able to have pressure in some of those fights, along with I forgot the 100 T's jungler's name already.
Oh,
Shoot,
River. Yeah.
it's River. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, this Liquid so far looks like they're less dumb. I will say it is concerning that APA lost on his one trick because he basically always gets like a free win on it, and he was basically getting camped out, and there was no like no defense, no like proper defense room. So he was like 0-4, right? So or 1-4. So all to say is I think Liquid looks less dumb in the late game, but they probably need a draft to reflect that as well. Like they should be confident that they can actually play these Exodia style comps, at least in the scenarios that they're needed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if it even matters because, right, supposedly the double support item strat's going to get pretty nerfed in 14.2.
That's
But
true.
yeah,
Yeah, it better be.
yeah, I hope so, right? But yeah, I did feel like Team Liquid is maybe a bit more measured and controlled. Like their early game is way less explosive than it was last split, just in these two games, right?
hmm
Um, and I think that's the difference between Pyosik and Umti, obviously, right? Umti is much more he's much less greedy, right? And he's on the Poppy, right? And he's on the Xin Zhao that's building half tank. So it kind of makes sense. I feel like that Team Liquid's going to look a bit more measured. But we talk about this idea of firepower. I'm not going to say they don't have firepower because they played a bunch of tank champions and it felt a bit, didn't feel like the explosive Team Liquid we were used to last split. But that's probably just, because of the draft, right? Impact is not going to do anything absolutely insane or crazy on Udi or top. It's just, there's no flashy plays there. But yeah, overall, I would say a decent weekend for Team Liquid. Their second game against Shopify Rebellion was pretty much just, a couple mistakes from APA, and then it was a free game, right? They just cleaned it up pretty easily. Any
hmm
last things on Team Liquid you wanna talk about?
No, I think that's about it. I I want them to be better than they looked against 100 Thieves. I don't think 100 Thieves is a high tier team.
No, they're not.
So
Yeah.
even though I have Liquid in the top three, like I mean, maybe FlyQuest is good enough for that. We'll see. It's a matchup thing as well. I'm
Yep.
just sad. I just want Liquid to be good, like super dominant.
Yeah, no, they definitely lost that super dominant edge that maybe we were feeling last year. But
Mm-hmm.
smarter maybe is a potential upside, so we'll see where it goes from here for Team Liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But before we let go of 100 Thieves, right? Pretty cool that General Sniper, even though it was not like one of those flashy Riven games, it's cool that he played his first game on his one trick and actually won.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I guess that's unique. But when you watch the game, it was like he got completely pooped on, and then he had Seraphine Karma, and then he was just god tier in the late game, anyways. So
That
kind of
does
whatever.
remind me though. Liquid, well, not Liquid in this case, but Impact was pretty solid for both games. I think he just had, a good presence. He was always like either winning or getting good trades, and well, in the early game. So I honestly was very happy with Impact's performance this weekend, even though they lost the first game.
Yeah, I mean he plays lane well. I will say
He's
I don't
not
know how much.
Summit,
Yeah, he's
but
not
anyways.
Summit, but I don't know how much you know about Udi or Top, but it is like impossible to lose lane on that champion right now. He is like Udi or Top is one of the craziest things. It was also a thing last season, but I guess I didn't really know about it, and I was like learning that it was also really overpowered last season too. Just not a lot of people played it, but now it's just in full force with the new tank items. He is a menace. It's crazy up there.
Oh,
So yeah,
interesting.
it is. No, he's like I was watching a lot of this exact matchup, Riven versus Udyr. I don't know if you've heard of Alois NL. He's a European streamer, does a lot of educational content,
Mm.
but he was talking about this matchup, and it's one of his most hated, like least. liked matchup that he plays on Riven. So I was very surprised to see Sniper actually pick it into Udyr, pick Riven
Yeah,
into
it didn't
Udyr.
look like a real matchup. I was like, wow, he's so good. I don't know what Udyr top does, and I was like, wow, man, Impact is so good at laning.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it with Bwipo later. You saw it with a lot of different. You saw it with
Yeah.
Fudge later, right? They just like completely dumpster lane on this champion. And I think that if you're good enough as a laner, right? We just listed three pretty good laners, and you pick
Hmm.
this champion, it's just impossible to lose lane. It's way too strong right now. So, pretty weird, pretty cool. But yeah, did and then 100 Thieves lost their next game, right? Oh yeah, it was against Cloud9. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we're
Do we
still
even
waiting to
count it
see.
against them? Like if
No,
they
we
lose to
don't.
Cloud9?
Yeah, we're still waiting for Sniper, to just get warmed up, get into the groove of LCS, see if he can be the next big thing. But yeah, any other teams we want to talk about? Let's see. Shopify Rebellion. I hyped them up pretty much, but it's the early season. I told them it would take some time to get going. They looked really bad, like super bad. I think Wild Turtle looked good, and everybody else was kind of not there. Kind of not there. Any other teams you want to talk about? No,
No, not really. Not
not
for this
really.
week.
Damn, we are excited about the LCS this year, aren't we? I'm just kidding. Let's see. I'll say a quick word about Dignitas. Rich looked decent in one of his games. Actually, two of his games. I didn't mind his Rumble game against NRG either. But oh yeah, Dove looked decent as well. But XU still kind of waiting for him to look decent. And then Immortals, not much to comment on. I think they had a couple of good moments against FlyQuest, so weren't a total disaster. But once again, kind of a lot needs a lot of improvement for these teams. But some of the games are fun, and it was a quick weekend. Quick
Mm.
weekend.
Dove is a
Uh,
good call out. I think Dove did play quite well. It's not common to see a decent Korean import like Azir. I
yep.
feel like Azir in general, it's not even a Korean import issue. It's just in NA. I feel like the Azirs are just like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like you only got a couple, right? Jensen, maybe JoJo, good at his year mid. Yeah, Dove looked decent considering he's on Dignitas. We'll see if they can keep it up. They
Hmm.
they did completely dumpster Immortals, so they're definitely not the eighth place team. um,
Yeah.
all right, well, yeah, let's talk about the meta a little bit more.
Hmm.
How do you feel about this double support stuff, right? I'm pretty glad it's going away, if it's going away for sure.
It's like it's so weird. I'm glad it's going away. First, let me make that clear. But at the same time, like, I mean, I feel like there needs to be something in the bot lane that's like not the same old marksman support that you always see. Whenever it does veer away from that, it feels like Riot just like slams it down faster than anything. I think Riot is the least flexible with what happens with, I was gonna say ARAM, what happens with AD carry.
Yeah,
And I think it's
bot
because
lane
the AD
stuff.
carry is the bot lane stuff in general is like the loudest and it's like the most like fixed, right? If you ever stop playing the game and you wanted to figure out what should I main so that I can play this game at any moment for the longest time, you should definitely play bot lane because those skills will carry the longest.
Yeah, because they really, if it ever veers off, like you say, they course correct pretty quickly, right? If AD carries are never the main thing. There was a brief time where they supported non-ADCs, right? And they wanted mages, but that was very brief. That was like 1 year, maybe max. Now it's just you want to play ADCs in bot lane all the time, and if you're playing Seraphine and stuff, Senna and stuff, just axe that strategy, which I'm okay with. It was pretty degenerate this weekend. We saw some really stupid stuff where it felt like skill did not matter, and it was all about the champion that you picked. So don't like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I guess what else can we talk about the meta? I guess Blitzsong in general, like I don't know if it's actually getting nerfed. I mean, let me check 14.2, but that support item is insane. Definitely needs adjusting of some kind. Yeah, okay, it is getting a nerf. The damage amp is getting reduced, but we'll see if it's enough. I think in general, the double support strategy is going away because of the restrictions Riot will make
Mhm.
for next week. But then people are still going to be picking up Blood Song. Maybe we still see some weird strategies. I don't know. Um, yeah. Anything else we want to talk about in the meta? We talked a little bit about Udyr. He's busted. Um,
Was there anything you felt was like surprising, like the prominence of Shinzao, for example, or the fact that we will still see Ash supports no matter what?
um, yeah, that's true. Ash support is a funny one. I think it's just because of Bloodsong, and you can get your. I feel like if you're playing against the Bloodsong strategy or the double support strategy,
Mm-hmm.
Ash is like really good at pushing the pace against these strategies before they can get going. Same with Varus, right? In AD as AD carry or support. So that's interesting. I think for Xin Zhao, Titanic Hydra makes you proc your 3Q, your Talon Strike much faster because you can auto reset. I've played
Mm-hmm.
it. I think it is really, really strong. I think it's the fact that you can knock people up so quickly and you can go Conqueror or Lethal Tempo. You don't need Hail of Blades and you do a ton of damage and it helps your clear, right? The only thing it lacks really is cooldown reduction, which is why people go Frozen Heart right after. So I think it's a really strong build. Um, I'm a fan of going Shojin or Black Cleaver second over something like Frozen Heart, so you can actually do damage with all the gold that you get, because you do snowball pretty hard on Titanic Xin. So I've been playing a lot of that. I wonder if we'll ever get a more damage oriented, or people will just only do Frozen Heart, which is I honestly think it is very good. It's just um, it doesn't do a lot if you get fed, right? Like Blabber got super fed on Xin and he still went that build, and I was like, yeah, I mean, but you can carry harder, you can keep your shutdown way easier, and if you just build damage, right? Because a Xin with Titanic Frozen Heart and a third item versus Xin with Titanic Frozen Heart, right? That extra third item doesn't really change Xin as a champion. It does if you're full damage, but not if you're like this weird tanky bruiser shit.
Mm.
So I mean, that's pretty all I. Yeah, that's pretty much all I saw that was that interesting. I guess that I think would stick out. Um, what are your thoughts on Lucian Nami or Lucian Melio coming back? That's pretty much we saw that almost every game.
I, uh, mm, Lu- I feel like Lucian Nami is just like a crutch for people who are just like, I don't want to think of a synergy, so I'm just gonna pick one that's good early, and then we'll just like figure it out after that. I don't know. I'm not particularly inspired by it. I think the problem is not even the Lucian Nami combos output. I think it's Lucian's output with
Mm,
how with how to me watching as a not 80 carry member with how bursty everything is, it feels like it's like just extra tough, isn't it? Just to get in, and you could get boomed by well
yeah.
pretty much anything. And that feels like way more punishing this season when things are more bursty. To be fair, I didn't see as much of the Reddit clip bursts as I thought I would, but I might just be NA being bad at punishing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think well, the Lucians we saw were very aggressive and in there. I just don't think they're at the caliber of Lucian that like warrants you playing this strategy, right? Like if you're gonna go first strike with like
Mm.
Storm Razor rapid fire bullshit, like where you pretty much are just do a little bit of burst and then you're useless, you have to be really on point. You have to be really good. You have to be, a top level 80 carry who jumps on it and is able to get big damage really quickly. Because if you fall behind on this build, if you need sustained damage, you're playing against a tank, it is more worthless than a support with Bloodsong, honestly. And which is why I think, a lot of Lucians went Bloodsong anyways. But I think it's, unless you're really, really good, I think the build's terrible. And yeah, that's Lucian for you. It's weird. We saw some weird stuff this weekend. It just, I think the thing that was a bit uninteresting to me was that we saw a lot of different stuff, but like it was pretty much we only saw that. Like we saw basically three different strategies get played by every team, and it was new compared to last year, which is
Mhm.
nice, I guess. But it was the same. Like I felt like I saw Udyr and Xin Zhao and Seraphine Senna and Varus or Lucian, pretty much those champions every single game, and Nazir as well. So a bit of a snoozer. I'm excited for next patch. Anything you're excited about next patch to change up for next week, and then we'll talk about some games in the next week, and we'll just close it out from there.
I would say nothing like uber excited. I think that the rebalancing of like the funny items that are doing the funny stuff across the board, that'll probably be interesting. I do okay. I do think that what you call it. Stridebreaker being viable again will be nice because I think that item in pro play never got a chance to be as OP as it was toward the end of last year. Like I just never saw
Yeah.
it as much as I thought it should be being played. So to me, I like Stridebreaker. I think that item needs to do more. What they're buffing is attack speed up, cost down. Maybe not enough to make it viable yet, but I like that item and I want it to be good because it means
Yeah.
you're fighting and not poking, and that is to me the best way to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, I love Stridebreaker too. I wish it was good. I wish I could build it this season. Haven't wanted to build it a single time. I think I did try it once, and it felt really terrible. It is that the damage is no longer on the active. So I wonder if they'll ever think about changing that. Probably not though. It was maybe too good, right? It had to be like mythic level status to have that kind of proc. We'll see though. Maybe they'll change it. Um, Things I'm interested, of course, besides the Blood Song stuff and the support item stuff, are the rune stat shards and the change to unflinching. That's going to be very different. So every game is going to be way different than it was before. So instead of having your little stat shards that are armor and magic resist, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get move speed and health. Um, or you can get like a variety of different health and tenacity options. So that's pretty cool. I think
I
that's
didn't know
unique.
that was happening. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's happening in 14.2. We'll see what that changes. I like it. So Riot is going the route of, hey, we're hearing everybody, things are too bursty, right? If everyone's getting one shot, but they don't want to like ruin the preseason by just gutting every item, right?
Right.
So they nerf some of the stuff a little bit here and there. They buff some champions here and there, but then they make everybody by default tankier, especially in the early game, because the MR and armor shards, if you do the math, they only are good later on, right? But the health shards are good immediately. So everybody's
Mm.
going to have more health in the early game, and they'll still scale decently well. It takes quite a while for armor and MR to outscale how effective the health is, and health is ubiquitous, right? It helps against all types of damage, especially
Mm.
true damage, right? So they're making everybody tankier in response to the crazy burst in the game, which I think is a cool idea. It's like a mini durability patch. Um, Last thing that I think is interesting is they're changing unflinching. It no longer gives you slow and tenacity. It now gives you 2 to 10 bonus armor while you're CC'd. It's pretty bad, I feel like. My guess is those numbers are too low. But if it ever gets buffed, I think this is going to be a pretty good rune, pretty good minor rune. Any final changes you want to respond to and talk about?
No, I mean that I like that change. I think that hitting the items just feels bad. I will say they said explicitly that they wanted to keep the AP numbers high because it felt bad to have 100 AP at 3 items. But if you're nerfing people's kit, like, and it's the same result, it's like, is this just basically mind games? Like, it's the same ends, but the means being different is good enough. I don't know. It feels a little weird to me.
Yeah, they're not really nerfing anybody's kit. For the most part, all the champions are getting buffed. Only a couple people are getting nerfed, right? Like the really outlying.
Right.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, and I think a lot of items are getting buffed too. A lot of some items that are being too OP are getting some nerfs. I think it's fine. They're very subtle nerfs and changes as well. Um, for now, it is kind of an interesting thought, right? It's like you make a durability patch and you slowly undo it, and now we're doing another kind of like pseudo durability patch. So it's like slowly undoing the undoing of the previous. Yeah, you could just go on in circles and circles. um, but I think that's just the cyclical nature of video games that constantly change. You're just gonna end up in a similar spot you were before, but you'll have different champions and different items and different map states, like what the map looks like. So it's
Mm.
all change in the end. It'll be different. All right, well, I think that's going to close us out. Actually, let's do some quick predictions on next week's games. Let's not leave before that. We'll just pick a
Oh,
couple games to talk about um, before we go. Uh, let's see what's happening next weekend. Who's
let me
playing
open
next
it
weekend even?
up.
All right, we
So,
got what's an interesting matchup? Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. This is a spicy one, actually. I'm kind of stoked for this one. So, who are you taking and why?
uh, I feel like the way we drafted week 1 shows that like Liquid doesn't know what this new roster's like best strategy is. I think it's gonna be a fly quest, unfortunately.
Oh wow. Okay. Predicting against the liquids.
Well, I mean, I think the play's been fine, but if we don't know how to play the meta yet, like I don't think they get solved in 1 week. But we'll probably see some improvements. But it looks like FlyQuest was like fairly solid.
Yeah.
It'd
FlyQuest
also
was
be
good.
interesting if Whippo beats his team, his old team.
That's true. Yep. And then I think I mean Jensen as well, right?
Oh, that's
But
that's very true.
we'll see what the meta looks like because 14.2 is live. That's the difference about being in North America now is that if there's a patch and it comes out, that's what we're playing on, no matter what. So
That's super exciting, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna be the first like region that's just not having to deal with this double support item bullshit, right? Every team's gonna be stuck on that. Every other region's gonna be stuck on that for a little bit longer. So one plus side to being in North America compared to other regions, we don't have to deal with this bullshit. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go FlyQuest as well. Actually, I think the changes honestly favor Team Liquid. They don't want to do the double support strategy, and FlyQuest they did practice it and they played it at least once. Um,
True. Hmm.
so I think Team Liquid is favored in that, but I do really feel I don't know the coordination, even though it should be in Team Liquid's favor, it feels like it's still better on FlyQuest. I'm not sure why quite yet. I don't know why Team Liquid doesn't look super coordinated, but maybe they'll get it together. But I think I'll go FlyQuest for now as well. Last game that we'll predict is also going to be another FlyQuest game. It's FlyQuest versus NRG. So this will be interesting.
Hmm.
See how this goes against the predicted second place. Um, FlyQuest versus NRG. Who you taking?
It's just so weird. It's like last year all over again. I'm predicting FlyQuest. I think NRG is a good team, but honestly, their game against Dignitas was super sus. Uh, I'm
Mm.
like, it happened. It helps that Dub had some good heroics on Azir. He flanked, killed FBI near mid lane. I was like, oh shit, that's like some sick position on Azir. He was so good for that. I
Yep.
don't get what Nashor's Lichbane is supposed to do, but it did damage. So I was like, okay, fair enough.
It's
Um,
because he gets on hit stuff on all of his abilities now.
Oh shoot, you're right.
Yeah,
I forgot that
yeah,
that would apply. Okay, no, that makes more
yeah.
sense.
And then
In my
Lichbane got
brain, it was like
changed.
short circuiting. I was like, I don't get it.
Oh yeah, no, his abilities now apply on hit effects, and Lichbane got changed so that it has like basically no cooldown now, so you can just proc it over and over.
That's necessary, dude. Lichbane was
Yeah,
doing Jack last year.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But besides that, I think that the FlyQuest had. Oh, this is why I also predicted them over Liquid. I think they have an idea of how they're gonna win, right? Like whether it be veteranship, whether it just be like them deciding collectively, like, hey, this is how we're gonna play it. I just felt more confident that they had a win con, right? So even when they were behind or going back and forth, like I felt like they were more into it. Now the patch will change, so that's super hard to predict. But I think NRG, despite who he being an upgrade and him having some pretty good angles and contracts having like great rel engage, like they look kind of shaky. I was not inspired. Um,
Yeah,
inspires on FlyQuest, but
exactly.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the sentiments. It did feel like energy. They didn't scrim really, right? They took a really long break after Worlds, and they have way less practice time compared to the other rosters, which is fine. They deserve it. They have a slow start. Everyone kind of predicted they were gonna have a slow start, so I'm okay
mhm.
with it. I also think FlyQuest is probably gonna take it. I I'm a firm believer that FlyQuest is gonna be really strong in the regular season, and I'm hedging my bets for the postseason, right? For playoffs and stuff. But FlyQuest, like you said, they look like they have a goal in mind. They have a strategy that they have planned ahead of
Mhm.
time. Energy, Team Liquid, they're just kind of they have a strategy and then they just start winging it, right? They just kind of start fighting here and there. They kind of moseying around. But FlyQuest seems like they're taking things serious. They're ready for business already. So that's going to do it. FlyQuest winning a lot of games this weekend, apparently. Maybe start
Apparently.
4-0, yeah. But once again,
uh,
early season predictions, they almost never pan out, right? Early season overreactions are never. Don't buy into them, okay? Don't buy Dogecoin. Don't buy early season reactions. Okay. All
It's
right.
not
Well,
financial advice, but I agree.
yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna do it here on this podcast. Just a quick one for you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. I think next weekend's gonna be a lot more fun with the new meta. So trying to be
Totally
too
agree.
toxic. Yes, I hope so because I will be very toxic if we still have double support stuff next weekend. Okay, but let's try not to be too toxic. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.